towards earning her PhD in management, Sumitra ma'am has an MBA in communication management and a PG diploma in human resource management. Teaching has been her passion, which she does along with designing and implementation of crucial training programs. She teaches courses in the area of communication as a visiting faculty at postgraduate level at XIMB and XIM University. Sumitra ma'am, I would sincerely request you to address the gathering and moderate today's event.
So I would ask all of you to please give all of them a hand. To be true, what we have as the theme of this panel is a prism of possibilities. And what we have featuring in, or if I'll say what they have achieved through their work experience is truly a prism of possibilities. So, to start off this panel and this discussion, I would like to give you a very short introduction of our esteemed panel members, and then I will invite them to please put across their views of what they have done through their work. So, who we have with us first is Ms. Shefali. To give you a very short, introduction of what she has done through her life. Ma'am is an alumnus of Rajasthan Technical University, Kota, with an MBA degree from the Institute of Rural Management, Anand, which is IRMA. And ma'am has joined AMUL as an area sales manager in 2016, and we know where she is now. She's scaled many heights already now. Now, ma'am is now the brand manager of AMUL, and she's taken the brand to many new levels in extremely competitive categories of beverages. She has received numerous awards and recognitions, and one of them is being featured in the Forbes list of 30 under 30. She has also been recognized as a rising star from the campaign's Women Leading Change Awards for Asia Pacific 2022. Ma'am is a fitness enthusiast and has been certified as a women fitness specialist from NASA. She has a lot of achievements at a young age, and she has also inspired women to break stereotypical barriers and rise to greater heights. So, I'd first like to ask Ma'am, what was the first inspiration that actually inspired you to take the brand to new heights? How did you join AMUL, and what has been your journey with AMUL till now? Could you please tell us something about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, ma'am, for such a beautiful introduction. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be talking to you all today. Just talking briefly about myself. I hail from Rajasthan. I did my post-graduation from IRMA, and during campus placement, I was recruited by AMUL for the sales role. And after working for about a year in sales profile, I was promoted to marketing role, and I was tasked to handle a beverage brand at AMUL. And since then, that's what I've been doing. It's been more than 5 years now into brand management. So, you're asking about inspiration. So, the fact that I was handed over a legacy brand, my inspiration was that I need to build on it. And what is it that I can add in my own capacity to this flagship brand of Amul beverages? So that's what I did. I started with, in my head I was very clear that I need to work on two things. One is, growing the existing portfolio, and second was keeping it relevant. So the key for this kind of product, as you might understand, it's youth. And youth is always seeking choices. They want new things. So my inspiration was that I need to provide something new to them And that's why I worked on two things. One was product development and second was communication. So the blend of two things of launching products. So for instance, I launched about 60 SKUs. So I started with 60 and have launched more than, and today it's more than 120 SKUs in my portfolio. Diversified across categories like fruit drinks, cells of protein drinks, immunity drinks, and so on and so forth. So one was launching these products. Second, I aggressively worked on the distribution part through all channels, whether it's e-com, MFS, or general trade. In fact, recently we launched our D2C for our protein beverage range. Then when it comes to communication, we took into our fold all the properties, all the good properties on all media vehicles to advertise our range of beverages. One unique thing we did was we associated with sports in America. So recently, we had our association with IPL. This is the first time. Last year we started it with 3 teams and this year we had 5 teams. So working on communication and product in a very, very cost-effective way led to us not only grow our consumer base, but overall, overall consumer base for the existing new products, and the growth in terms of distribution was exponential.
Ma'am, you spoke about communication and relevance or something that helped you a lot. What are perhaps some of the biggest hurdles that you faced when you were also writing this?
Hurdles are many. So, at every stage, so I'm a brand manager. The brand manager is for those who don't know, brand manager is a custodian of a brand. And we're supposed to bring together all the stakeholders so that a brand functions smoothly. Now, when you're trying to bring together all these stakeholders, you can imagine what kind of constraints, challenges one would face. I'll take a recent example. We had COVID, okay, and our work in terms of product development or launches, or at least ensuring that our existing portfolio is reaching consumers, didn't stop. It wasn't interrupted at all. Now, that was a challenge we faced. So how do we overcome it? We overcome it by bringing together all our best resources, whatever we have at that time. So let's say we had to launch a product. Let's say so I was launching Hardidu. Now, the market was short of honey. People had purchased all the turmeric oils in the market because that was a fear of growth. But then again, we put together all our resources, looked out for all the possible avenues where we could buy the best quality turmeric from across India. So, because there was also logistical challenges, supply chain was totally broken. So, bringing together all those things and talking to your stakeholders and people in the group, it helped to overcome all these challenges.
Now, ma'am, you talked specifically about D2C, right? What do you think are the recent changes that have perhaps shaped the market? What have shaped the business ecosystem? Can you give us some insights about that?
Yeah, sure. So, mostly in cases D2C is the go-to strategy nowadays. But any distribution channel or the choice of distribution channel, it depends on two things: the nature of the product that we are trying to sell, and who is it trying to sell, where is your consumer. So it depends on these two things mainly. So brands are only looking at least the new age brands are only looking at D2C as a strategy, whereas they can also look at, let's say, e-commerce. It will help them widen their reach. Or maybe MFS, modern format stores. They allow the consumer to have the touch and feel of the product. So that way, there's a different kind of engagement consumer has with the product. So D2C is just one of the strategies. And for us, for instance, Amul is present in all distribution channels. So D2C is a strategy that we adopted for our new range of protein beverages because that's what we thought was most suitable for this kind of product, for this kind of category.
And perhaps because we have so many young and aspiring managers here, what was your mantra and focus for steering an iconic brand or what you also call a legacy brand like Amul?
Okay, so it's very simple. It's a legacy brand, okay? Now, if I have to succeed, there are two things. Okay, one is hard work, and second is self-belief. Obviously, there is no short way to success or to develop something or to deliver your work the way it's expected. But there are two things, or this combination that I just told you, the combination of hard work and self-belief. This is the least and probably the best we can do. Because external factors are definitely not in our control. So whether it's building your brand or it's building your own career as young managers when you were up, I think this is the best we can do. The rest, everything will fall in place.
I think I'll come back with some more questions to ma'am slightly after some time after we have some more discussions with the next panelists. So thank you so much, ma'am. Next we have with us Ms. Mishra Singh. Ma'am is the co-founder and the CEO of Nexus Spark. Now, ma'am is actually an alumnus of Xavier University and she has earned her degree from what currently is Exam University. Now, Nexus Spark makes biodegradable and bioorganic batteries for electric vehicles. She is a strong advocate of sustainable practices within the industry. She was also recognized by Forbes 30 under 30 just some time ago. Now, they have won numerous awards for innovation in the battery technology domain. They also guide and she also pioneered a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs to persevere boldly with their ideas and take ahead a lot of ideas in that particular domain for a greener future, and they're also putting ahead a lot of ideas in that particular domain. So welcome, ma'am. Now, ma'am, I think the first thing that I would like to ask you is that Nexus Spark actually was started or inaugurated in 2019, but the idea before that and the journey started long before that, right? So what actually triggered the thoughts for that and what got you on that journey? Could you tell us something about that?
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be interacting. Firstly, there is a promising institute I was, so it's really a pleasure to be here on this side of the stage today. And thank you for the introduction, ma'am. That was really sweet. So coming to Nexus and how Nexus happened. So to be very honest, very casually, Nexus happened out of a late night terrace conversation between me and my co-founder, who happens to be my twin sister, and who's also an alumnus of the same university. So we were randomly discussing about electric vehicles because the journey of my passion and my love towards automotive aircraft machines dates long back to my childhood. My mom used to often tell me that I used to play with toy cars when I was small and I was very enthusiastic about machines. So one of those people who love opening up phones, opening up any kind of machine you find around you to see what's there inside. So that's where the passion dates back to. But so we were talking about electric vehicles around 2018, 2019, and we were trying to discuss that ever since India has started having an auto expo in Delhi, so it happens once in every 2 years. And so ever since we've heard about auto expos, we've seen a lot of EVs being concept vehicles being launched. A lot of companies, the BMW, the Jaguar, Mercedes, every 2 years they come in and they kind of show you a different kind of an EV concept. And it's always remained there. So what we were discussing was why aren't they actually on the road? I mean, so I'm talking about a time in 2008, 2010 when EVs were all concepts. And when still in 2018 they were not on the roads. We were to see where the major problem was in India because globally you would still see a couple of them on the roads, not in India, especially the four-wheelers. And that's where we realized that the battery that you have in EVs, which is a lithium-ion battery, these batteries are typically made out of lithium-ion cells, and the combination is an NMC combination, nickel manganese cobalt. And why I'm mentioning the elements is because neither lithium nor nickel, manganese nor cobalt, neither of these four elements are available in India. So you get the loophole there immediately. The reason why we are falling back is because we don't have an indigenous production at all. We import it from the Chinese or European markets, and we don't manufacture cells in India. We only import the ready-made cells, we assemble the batteries there. So that was the first trigger point. Second was the amount of pollution levels that you have with the petrol diesel vehicles and also with the crop residue burning. And I'll tell you why I mentioned the crop residue. talk about crop residue, I'm talking about the air quality index of Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, the northern plains basically, where the farmers, they clear their field after one harvest for another harvest. And when they burn that field, they have it's tremendous amount of smoke, and that smoke leads to a lot of problems in the pollution side. So it was just a random discussion where we wanted to see if we can possibly have a marriage between these two, where you look at an alternate solution to non-lithium to lithium batteries, where you can have a non-lithium battery, at the same time try and utilize the crop residue and see if it works for us. So experimentally we began with a concept which was utilizing this crop residue, try and make batteries out of it. That's where Nexus was born, and that's how it is today. So precisely we are a biodegradable battery out of crop residue. And as of now, in the last 2.5 years journey, so we began officially in late 2019. It's been about 2.5 years, 2.5 years almost by now. So we've successfully not only been able to build the concept, build the product, we have now been able to do our prototypes. We're already in the testing phase. And the next couple of months, and we're looking to go ahead with our paid pilots, and that's where the commercial sales begin. So the entire journey began from a random conversation, just between me and my co-founder. Eventually, we had like-minded people joining us, a small team which runs day and night behind the R&D to make sure that the product that we're looking at, a vision that we saw about 2.5 years ago, is finally taking shape, and it's already out as a physical product in my hand. So that's how the journey has moved in the last 2 years.
So, like you just mentioning, the batteries that you're fashioning and also producing are totally sustainable, biodegradable, and made from crop residue, right? So could you tell us a little bit about the science behind it and also the probable impact on farmers?
So in fact, thanks for that question. So if I talk about how this impacts farmers, typically is, if you look at how they burn the residue, the reason they burn the residue is because clearing that field costs them all the more money. So it's like putting in money to clear the field and then they get nothing out of it. So just trying to play with that point there, that if I'm paying you to do it, I'm sure your enthusiasm, your motivation to do it is more. So typically, by procuring the residue from them and not letting them burn it, we are comfortably able to increase their annual income by at least 25 to 30K. So for a smaller farmer whose annual income is about 1.2 lakhs per annum, for that person to have another 30,000 or 40,000 in hand additionally per annum is a boon, and that is the reason why farmers around Odisha especially, that was where the trial runs began, they happily signed in. Because for a person like I mentioned, 1.2 lakhs per annum is their annual income. And if I'm getting 40,000, 35,000 additional per annum on that income, only for properly clearing my field, that's obviously a benefit to me. Because I am not putting in a lot of effort into that space. So that's one benefit that happens to the farmers. Now if I go to the technicality of how this battery is made, of course, there's a lot of IP and patents involved. So I wouldn't give you the entire process. But what I can tell you in a nutshell is these are actually protein-based batteries. Proteins in your human body are naturally energy charged cells, if I call them. They are called ETCs, energy transfer cells. So in your body, all the energy and your fast movement that happens because of proteins. And that is the reason when you're gymming and working out, you're actually focusing on protein supplements and protein bars and whatever. So that's the benefit that protein has in your body. So this is a sustainability concept called biomimicry, where you're mimicking natural processes to make man-made goods. And the other process that we utilize from sustainability purity is industrial ecology. So industrial ecology is a concept where you're using the waste material of one industry as a raw material in the other. So typically that's a zero waste concept, it's a full cycle. So like I mentioned, the biomimicry, so our batteries are protein-based batteries, where the protein typically is the element which goes in place of lithium to make the battery. And the others, of course, I keep it closed because it's not like it.
So I think that's a very valid move also for the environment. So are you seeing or do you feel that India is moving or is now readier for a greener future? Do you see a shift in the automobile sector?
No, I'll be very honest, man. When we talk about EVs as a concept and moving towards EVs, there's a lot that goes into making those EVs, which typically may or may not be sustainable. So as a matter of fact, when on the broader side, the country is more or less ready to accept this change, we are not looking at the inner circle where the manufacturing happens. So as on date, if I mention, with the existing EVs and the existing batteries and technology that we have, EVs are technically more polluting than the petrol diesel vehicle on the manufacturing side. So even if you're trying to switch the pollution level, you're actually doing more harm on the other side. And that's the reason why I mentioned that, on the broader side, you are ready, but in a circle, we are still not understanding the practicality of the point of how sustainability works. So sustainability is typically very different from just considering planting of trees in a green environment. There's a lot that goes into looking at sustainability as a concept, because on the broader scale, it typically means that you're utilizing resources in a way that you're not compromising for the future, and you're not compromising for yourself either. But in that sense, on the broader side, most of us look at planting more trees, or not letting construction happen, or not looking at better technologies evolve, because somehow you consider that might be more harmful. But on the other side, if we talk about greener technologies, maybe green buildings, EV technology is on the deeper side more sustainable, then you're typically moving towards a greener future. I believe the awareness is what is lacking. We've been able to put this concept of sustainability, but we've not been able to put the concept of what exactly it means.
Thank you. I'll again come back to some more questions after I ask Sahiti. Today we have our third panel member with us, who is Ms. Sahiti Devi, and to give a very short introduction about Ms. Sahiti. Sahiti is the director of Mohanam, and she is also the national brand ambassador for CISNC's Sustainable Development Goals. She completed her master's in social entrepreneurship from the House International Business School, and she's currently the developer of Impact Scientist, which is a rural women leadership influencing platform. And this connects the tales of women innovators and rural businesses to B2B platforms, incubators, investors, communities, and organizations. She started her journey with being co-founder of ThankPet, which was actually a click and brick, first of its kind electric cremation center for pets in India. From then on, she moved on to be the head of partnerships at Chezuba, which is an organization that aims to organize the unorganized sector of volunteering. Welcome, Sahiti. I think first, if you could very interestingly tell us about how your journey with Mohanam's channel has started, and about the interesting work that Mohanam does, we would love to hear about it.
Definitely. So the journey of Mohanam started when I came to Auroville, which is 2 years ago. And I came to Auroville for a personal break, just to take a break and for 1 week stay there and figure out things. But I think it was a calling. I was meant to go there, and I started. So when I went to Auroville, I was still the founder of Impact Scientist, and I was doing the stories of women entrepreneurs and women creators, or women who are involved in the supply chain of any business, basically. So the first round of stories that I had done was women from the industry who are already established. And then I felt saturated because it was more about bringing the story of success out. And which kind of triggered me because I'm a very rural person. Like, although I'm brought up in Bhopal, I studied in the US, but I think I'm very, very inclined towards the villages. So I relocated from Hyderabad, where I was living, to a very small town in Andhra Pradesh, where I worked with the local government and the local organizations and interacted with many supply chains like bamboo, handloom, cashew nut, fruit supply chains, and weaving, mango jelly, brick making, and many other local art and craft and traditional crafts which are there, some of them which were endangered. And that kind of triggered me because when, if I trace back to US and my education there, and when you talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, you're talking about the future. But the solution to the future is there in India's past, in India's villages. The way we package things, the way we sell things, the way communities are created, the way we all come together and resolve and face crises. And all the enterprises which are born in India are, naturally social enterprises. That is why we don't have a policy for social, entrepreneurs in India, which is a problem today. But keeping all this in mind, and I was very confused, and there was a lot of curiosity because I had been on ground for 2.5 years, And after meeting so many women, I was very overwhelmed and I wanted to channelize all this. And that brought me to Auroville. And after coming to Auroville, I continued doing the stories because Auroville is a house, is a paradise of social enterprises. And there are more than 100 social entrepreneurs living in Auroville, in that small town. So I did some stories there as well, which were excellent, brilliant stories of people who came as nothing and they created wonderful products from that place. But in this journey of finding stories and connecting these stories to the right B2B platforms and organizations or giving them mentorship, incubation support, I met Mohanam. I went there to do the story about Mohanam Village and Heritage Center, which is started 21 years ago. It was a non-profit started by a man who dropped out in 8th class and who created this Mohanam. And now it has really blossomed into many other organizations like Auroville Bamboo Center is born out of that. So 15 years of work in bamboo and more than 80 products in bamboo are created there. So I thought, no, I can't just do a story on Mohanam. I need to figure out more. There's something more to it. So I joined Mohanam as a volunteer. And also Auroville process, to be in Auroville and to become a part of Auroville, it needs you to work for an organization. And it pretty much like the way you were saying, two right causes needed to marry each other. So what I was dreaming, somebody had already created a platform and infrastructure and the resources were right there. And all I had to do was go execute and give my whole self. So 8 months after volunteering there in all the aspects, like I looked at partnership, marketing, and there were 100 products which were there, like why are these products not scalable? And the quality of the products is so, global ready, but what is the problem existing there and how can we create entrepreneurs and women and youth working with art and craft? There is, it is where you can understand what is an Indian village and how that converts into local economy and how can you actually practice the lifestyle of a circular economy and how can you become real part of it. Then Mohanam offered me to join as a director and I continued to do the stories and now we have many the social entrepreneurship workshop which we give is one of its kind, for example, that you have an immersion into the whole Auroville experience and how these products and people came here. So there is a real life interaction with Auroville and with the products there. So Mohanam for me is all I dreamt of, all I had to surrender to, and that's how Mohanam happened to me.
I think one of the things that we come across social entrepreneurship as a concept and its understanding is quite young in India, right? What perhaps some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions that you're seeing or that you come across when you meet various stakeholders?
People don't know the objective difference between social work, social enterprise, CSR, for-profit with a foundation attached to it, where there is no relationship between the product of the company and the CSR that is happening. So there has to be more and more awareness platforms. There's a lot of scope and opportunity to create a lot of content about this, like what is a social enterprise, and we're always looking at outside of us for examples. So there's a lot of scope. Unless we have 10,000 stories from India, we'll be confused first, and then we'll put everything in front of us, and then we'll start to classify, okay, women entrepreneurs like this, single woman entrepreneurs, hybrid enterprises. So every woman entrepreneur is a business case herself, because her story is different, she's selling to a different target group, and she needs to be in a certain way. So for me, that was the point where I realized.
I think Mohanam as an organization and even you have a very different vision towards gender equality and poverty, right? So, what particularly did you take as your central vision towards changing and perhaps achieving equity? And what do you think has been the impact over the years on many people's lives?
So 4 years back, when I started Impact Scientist, I always looked at, okay, these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I want to create awareness. My job is, I want everybody to know about them. I just want to be an agent of taking these 17 goals to everybody. From there, people will choose. Okay, I'm more inclined towards this goal. I'll do research and then go deeper into it. But I was always inclined towards goal number 5, which is gender equality. And there was a McKinsey report 4 years back that I have read, which says 27% of India's economy can increase at least if half of our women population becomes a part of the economy, like participate in the economy directly. But then when I went to the villages, I saw that almost every woman is working. In fact, in the cities, not every woman is working, but in a village, every woman is working. Like, there's no number of hours, they're working 24 hours except for the time they're sleeping. So imagine, why are they not there in the local economy? Like, why are they not counted as part of economy? What is the gap? Why is their education, but why is the education not converting into employment? And why is that employment not converting into personal growth for women? So it started off with a very activist kind of a feeling, like, like how people perceive a feminist. True feminist is not someone who's against men, who's just fighting for equality and their own rights. So when I started, I have to agree that I felt like I have to fight for women. I have to empower women. Then I realized women are super empowered. They don't need empowerment. Like, women are ready, the world is not ready. So in 4 years, along my journey, what I realized with a lot of traveling, meeting new people, going to many spiritual places and interacting a lot more with nature than I did before, and my oral experience, I realized there's no gender. Real meaning of fighting for gender equality is to remove the concept and there's no equivalent of gender. There's a man in every woman and there's a woman in every man. And we need to embrace both, and that is the real fight for equality. So while I'm in the quest of finding myself, what I discovered, I want to put it out as form of stories. Whether it empowers men or women or someone with no gender, it doesn't matter to me. But it should create an impact in their minds that there is no construct of gender. So this changed along my journey in Auroville especially. And this happened to me, like it took me 4 years to realize there's no gender in gender equality.
Thank you so much. I think now I'd just like to ask everyone about some views because we've just moved past 2 years of a very tumultuous period, which we call pre and post pandemic of course. How do you feel or what have been some learnings from the pandemic and how is it affected each of your individual work styles? What have been your learnings?
So, I'm during COVID, not much changed for us. We were essential services. So our role was very, very simple that we have to be there for the consumers. In fact, what happened, instead of, and we didn't have all of this, work from home, everything. We had to be there in the market to service the consumer. Our work increased because since this was essential, we had to navigate through all the supply chain challenges. We had to ensure that we are fulfilling all the requirements of consumers because not many brands were able to do that. They were not able to supply enough quantity of food items that were required, or there was no development happening as such. When it comes to advertising, also people were just pulling back in those days. But at Amul, we continue to work on those things. For instance, I think it was during March that we started working on our immunity range of beverages. because that was the need of the hour back then. We didn't work on one or two products, but so many of them, for instance, haldi doodh, ginger, tulsi, ashwagandha, kesariya, star anise. I mean, I can just keep on talking about it, but there's so many immunity ancient beverages that we worked on. Then we realized there was a requirement for lifestyle beverages, for instance, milkshakes. So we launched 1 liter bag of milkshakes as the entire family was consuming those beverages. Then there was a requirement for breakfast range of beverages, so we did that, 500 ml PET bottles. Then people were looking for healthier option of aerated beverages. So we launched India's first dairy-based seltzer, which has dairy in it, fruits in it, and is carbonated. So, it does not have caffeine, it does not have phosphoric acid, for all the reasons you call the colas unhealthy. So we did all of this during COVID lockdown, and when the challenges were really immense. So on the work front, things really increased with the challenges, of course. But on personal front, since I worked on those things, it helped me grow tremendously. My learning increased, and my efficiency, of course, improved because I had to do things at a much faster pace. Imagine we were rolling out new products every 10 days, every 15 days, right from ideation to conceptualization, packaging, communication, and everything, finally rolling it out in the market. So within 15 days, 10 days, 20 days, so was the timeline for every product that we were launching, and all of this was done during COVID lockdown. So in many ways, it was a learning experience, but at the same time, since brand Amul stood for the consumers, we gained a lot of consumer trust. And consumers were really happy that we were able to reach out to them and they did not have to suffer at all despite what was going on in the market.
So, I come from a very different background as compared to the essentials of the food. So, we were typically first, not an essential service. Second, a hardcore manufacturing R&D company, purely the B2B space. So, for us, while they were more active, we had to take a step back and get a little more laid back in our attitude. I'll tell you why. So, we were using shared labs, and because a lot of our thing goes to the proteins, that actually falls under the biotech space. So we were using biotech labs, shared labs with other companies which are purely into the pharmacy and the healthcare and the food sector. So when you're dividing your time and you have to restrict the norms of social distancing, so the priority has to be given to the healthcare startups because they're working on vaccines, they're working on COVID testing kits, so on and so forth. So typically when you are ranking your priority or your possibility of being in the lab, that was almost about, in the probability say about 10 to 15%. And obviously the priority was for the food startups and for the health tech companies. So for us, it was as a company which was rapidly growing in the R&D space, daily in the labs, working almost 10-12 hours on the R&D. For us to all of a sudden switch back, consider home and consider working from home was very, very difficult. So, because the entire space of pandemic, especially when it started off, and that was the very initial stage of our development in 2020, and if you were asked to stay back and not work on a product. So not only for us, but for the team also, it's a big setback. Because then you look at ways of doing something in the day, you don't know what to do. Because most of your time was in the lab, in the R&D, where you're typically more or less congested, but now because of social distancing, you have to step back. So we had to look at other possibilities of working and keeping ourselves engaged. And that was where we worked a lot of branding for the company. That's where the entire brand recognition, the structurization happened. If I go down to the smaller elements, that's where our vision. We sat down to align. We sat down to look at the strategy as to how things have to get aligned until we get back to that. And of course, the team could not come together. They all at home separately, trying to work more on software, trying to build the brand presence, trying to build our social media presence, trying to just collaborate with EV manufacturers, with other companies which would need the batteries, because that's all you can do at that time. Your R&D is completely set back. And we could only sort of wait until we go back to the labs and start working again. So that phase for us, honestly, was, if I would say, was a very difficult space for us. There is no end to that time when you would actually get back to the lab. You will simply ask to stop work, And if you look at the timelines, the Indian government also, they were kind of stretching lockdowns continuously until September of 2020, and then we had a brief 3 months, which also had to be operated with pure social distancing norms. So again, you were put in phases, again you were asked to step back and give priority to the other startups. So you're typically in a space where you're working about maybe 5 days a week continuously in the labs. Now we've been reduced down to only 2, maximum 3. So everything in your company takes almost a standstill because the R&D guys cannot work, and the management team that we have on board, they are more or less linked to the R&D team. Now, if the R&D team does not raise a procurement order because they're not able to work and their material is not actually coming down to the minimum order quantity where you can order reorder, typically the management team also has nothing to do with that case. Apart from the branding guys or the HR team slightly managing the employee payroll and setting back with the software, I think there was nothing else to do. For me and Nikita, it was more challenging, my co-founder Nikita, because then, as a team, I don't know if you actually come across this or you felt it somehow, but for me and Nikita, when you see a lot of people working in your team, you are automatically motivated to work harder and work better. But if you see everybody around you sitting still trying to find out ways of doing something, automatically it impacts you also, because you know that a lot of things that could have happened were going as per plan, but have almost been stopped because now you simply can't access that space which is yours. So in that situation, we only tried to keep up the motivation levels as much as possible. But of course, it was a very tiring phase. We only tried to do smaller experiments at home. It was also a task to convince mom and dad to bring out things to the kitchen and try and experiment there because that was available. But then the entire process of grinding and extraction, then doing it at home was also a task. So we only tried to do a few of them, but not like we could really enhance the R&D. But at the end of the day, it was a pure setback for us. So we only had to sit back, maybe look at the branding, look at the internal software, just try and randomly connect with EV manufacturers, see if they're interested to set up a video call meeting, which until then was a very not known kind of a scenario. Everybody wanted to kind of meet and interact, and that was a better form of attraction. But then you have to slowly embrace technology into a hardcore manufacturing R&D space. You have to accept the fact that you could also work with IT and kind of see and build that extent to IT. So that was a pure setback for us in terms of the manufacturing side. But if I tell you the good thing that happened to us during the pandemic, all of our discussions and interactions and meetings for investments and funding happened online. So that typically cut down all our time frame and all our energy in traveling. That happened over Google Meet or Zoom. And we in fact also raised our investments during the COVID, so that of course was a benefit to us. So apart from work not happening, I think in terms of the company we progressed, but in terms of the product, it still had a setback. So I would not really say that COVID gave a very bad impact on us, because yes, the product was a full setback, but because the investments happened during that time, the entire thing moved online, so that kind of gave us the advantage of sitting in one place and talking to about 100 plus investors at once. So that really helped. Otherwise, product and manufacturing wise, I think it was a big setback for us.
For me, COVID had two things, like two different perspectives. One was mine and one was that of the stories of people that I was doing, right? So for me, it was okay because the only thing changed for me was I was physically going to a certain person and doing the story. So definitely there was more impact. I used to go and like if it was a 30 minutes interview, sometimes it used to be like 4 or 5 hours of post-interview conversation, and then we really used to come up with something concrete about the problems and the challenges that we had discussed. But on the other hand, when I did the stories of the supply chains that I had mentioned, all these people were suffering. Like, I was okay to do my stories online. People had more time to spend on their phones. I was able to interact with my target group more, and the online presence and the branding. I could do it all by myself at home. I had all the time to brainstorm with my team, and so for impact scientists it was okay. But I was going through an unrest when I look at the beneficiaries on the other hand. So then I decided, I'm not going to just do the stories, I'm going to economically empower the stories that I'm going on doing. So that's how Impact Scientist e-commerce began. And the e-commerce, the concept that I had come out with is usually what is happening in the handicraft business and these rural products business is by the time they cross so many middlemen and reach the shelves of e-commerce platforms or a mall in a city, the price goes up, but the price is not paid to the creator. That's the basic problem which all the artisans are facing. Then I came up with a concept that if you are buying the product of this particular weaver, for example, I'm going to share 25% of the profit with the weaver himself. So that pushed many people to, I was creating awareness and at the same time, not just trying to push my product into the market, but also trying to change the consumer behavior. And COVID made it easy. Although the product was difficult to sell, at least the mindset, the paradigm of how people perceive these products did change. 40,000 people who are there on the online community right now, they all resonate with the stories I'm trying to tell. So I think COVID brought both good and bad, but most importantly got change that was required for everybody, for consumers, for markets, and for the other stakeholders who are involved. There was a very deeper level change in how we receive and spend money.
Before we open the stage to the audience for questions, I think I would just like to ask one last question to all of you. Since we're talking about the prism of possibilities in this session, what do you think are some changes in the business environment that has made businesses more flexible and perhaps more accepting of innovation and made it more easy for certain changes in your sector? If you could give just one word on those two.
Earlier, startup means it used to be like, okay, I have to be a multi-billion-dollar startup. And that is what a startup means, becoming a unicorn is a startup. But no, what changed is I'm only serving to 20 customers and this is my product. So because of a lot of online marketing and a lot of personalized marketing, and many entrepreneurs came up with small-scale businesses, cottage industries and micro industries cropped up. So that changed. So the market has diluted in a very beautiful way. Now it is not about coming up with one solution and making that solution fit into the whole world, but now there are customized solutions. For example, India needs regional solutions. For the whole country, we can't say that this one is the solution. We have, for example, weavers in the whole country, but there is no match between Orissa's weave and Andhra's weave and Gujarat's weave. We all are diverse, right? So, especially for a country like India, which is still based, we need regional solutions and regional ways to execute these solutions. I think that is where Amul cuts across everything. And yeah, that changed in the recent times.
From the perspective of a startup, I think I really credit the startup missions also. The Startup India mission, Startup Odisha mission, the individual state startup missions, because they are the ones who typically actually created that awareness about starting a company. I mean, I remember about even 5-7 years ago when you ask somebody what your company is, they would mostly talk about a proprietorship company. Having a private limited company was only expected to be a company which is like you mentioned, a multi-billion company, something like that. Until it is not having a 2 or 3 crore turnover, it was not supposed to be a private limited company. That was the mindset. But I would really credit the startup missions for changing that mindset and allowing you to explore opportunities of being recognized under their missions and then giving you the kind of incentives or subsidies that I would say for kind of exploring this possibility. And that's one thing. Second, I think how things have changed is because we've seen a lot of investments happen in India. I mean, if you go back 10 years also, you wouldn't see the amount of investors that you have today. Investors in in terms of angel investors, VC funds, they're looking at India as an opportunity much more than what they were looking at it 10 years ago. When I remember when Flipkart raised that $200 million in one round, that was a big top of the round, and Flipkart raised $200 million at once, which was also a US-based investor, not an Indian investor. Today, Baidu stands at a valuation of almost $11 billion, and they have raised almost $1 billion in one single round. So you see the difference in the impact and how things have been changing. 10 years ago, we only had 4 or 5 unicorns. Today, we crossed 100 plus, and we have about 80,000 plus recognized startups in India in different genres, from as small as social organizations, as big as these e-commerce like Flipkart. So I think how things have moved is purely because the awareness has increased a lot. Initially, in Odisha also, I would say it was a very job-oriented space. Low down in the remote areas, you would still find that today that when you interact with somebody and you say, if you look considerably beyond 23, 24, the first thing you are asked is, have you finished your studies? If the answer is a yes, the second question is, where are you working? What job are you doing? Today, it still remains in the remote areas, but if you move slightly urban, this concept has enhanced a bit. And why I'm saying this is because today, if you meet a person in the 20s, 24, 25, 26, the first question is, have you done with your studies? If you say yes, the second question typically is not what job are you doing, it is what are you doing in life. So I feel that change is coming because of all the awareness that people have brought in about startups, about companies, about innovations per se, not only startups. And Government of India has played a pivotal role in this because a lot of grants that initially were not a part of startup ecosystem have now come into individuals and startups. Like even from the Department of Biotechnology, initially the grants were only for the institutes. And PhD research scholars in the institute could benefit from that. Today, it is any individual who can walk into the incubators, apply for the grant. If you get through, you get almost 50 lakhs to explore and innovate on a product that you've been thinking about. This kind of innovation added on with the kind of awareness that people have been bringing in for IP, purely for patents, for trademarks, all possible ways of securing your product. So when you know so much about how you can build a company, how investments could be a possible space, how rapidly things are moving, how you can protect your innovations. So and all of these grants that I spoke about are grants which emphasize that you start as an individual if you're not a company, eventually make a company. But if you're a company, that's always an added benefit. So it's typically all moving you towards making startups. The point is, every startup needn't be a unicorn, it needn't be a multi-million company, it needn't be in that decacorn kind of valuations. And every founder, every entrepreneur might or might not be a full-time entrepreneur. But the fact is, whether you're a part of the list or not, it does not make you any less an entrepreneur. You still remain one, and you will always be one, right? So, the entire aim of asking individuals to make companies is to explore the opportunity for startup. And you may or may not succeed. As a company today, Nexus is growing. Tomorrow we may not. But the fact is, I at least tried. I at least tried to build something. If I fail, I could at least sell my technology to somebody because the patent is protected. Or I could collaborate, have a merger acquisition, and still keep growing. So the aim here is not to create companies. The aim here is to enhance the ecosystem that you're trying, you're giving jobs. So imagine the number of jobs that you give when you start companies. And then look at the possibilities of collaborations. You have plenty of edtech startups today. Almost, apart from the recognized ones, you would be having 1,000 more that you don't even know exist. But then there's always a possibility that say 7 8 of them come together with their individual products and try and collaborate to make 3 or 4 worthwhile products. The impact is different. So the aim here is only to build an impact. And I think that's only come because of the awareness and the way things have been moving across India and the enthusiasm that people have shown towards switching and individually innovating. It's not about starting companies, it's always been about innovating.
I think Shekhar, more specifically what I'd like to ask you is, you think that nowadays because of the change in the business environment, that people or consumers are more accepting or more acceptable towards this stuff
Yes, ma'am. Not just consumers who are accepting things, it's the brands who are coming forward with innovative practices. And not just one or two aspects of business, in almost every aspect of business, companies are trying to be innovative because, particularly talking about food, it's a low entry barrier industry. So every company or every brand is just coming in. When there is so much of competition and then there is social media and everybody is advertising and it's so much platter all over the place. Consumers have so much to consume on their plate, whether it's in advertising or when they just go out to purchase things on the shelves. There is so much that brands need to adopt innovative approach and obviously consumers embrace it because then the innovative things stand out. And when they stand out, consumers tend to accept it. So I'll give you a quick example. Okay, since I'm talking to management students, I'm assuming you all understand marketing mix. How many of you understand marketing mix? Whoa, bright students. Great, सबने कॉटलर पढ़ी है. Amazing. So, but I'll repeat what marketing mix is, just in case some of you need a refresher. It includes the 4 P's basically. First being the product. Okay. Now let me give you quick examples under each of these heads of marketing mix. When it comes to product, brands need to differentiate. They need to come up with a differentiated offering. They need to leverage tech to have a competitive advantage. How do they do that? And one most important thing, they need to have some kind of different approach towards things. Okay, to give you an example, I was just talking about, let's say, protein beverages. Okay, now protein is a very cluttered space. There's so many supplement brands out there, mostly selling powdered form of it. Does anyone here consume protein supplements? Any gym goer, any fitness enthusiast here? Okay, we have somebody here, great. Yeah, so he understands what I'm talking about. Now, what we could have done as Amul, we studied the landscape. Okay, what are the loopholes where consumers are suffering, and where we, as a large dairy brand, can help consumers. So we took the differentiated route. We created an offering which is ready to drink, which is a beverage, which people can just pick off the shelf and ensure that they are consuming enough protein in their daily diet. Now that is a differentiated offering. Secondly, and let me tell you, it has been accepted so well. We launched it on B2C platform. It has generated so many conversations on social media. And why that happened? Because people had first the trust on the brand, so they tried a newly launched product. Second, since the product was good, it was value for money, so people talked about it. They became evangelists for the brand. Okay. Second, pricing. So in India, consumers want value for money products. ठीक है? किसी को महंगा पसंद है कुछ चीज? कोई यहाँ पे है जो बोले I would like to buy expensive धनिया है? Okay. So people like to buy value for money products. What happens? Brands need to go for mass premiumization approach. Okay, what does that mean? That people feel vanity in consuming a product without pinching their pocket. Okay, now to give you an example, किसी ने अमूल की dark chocolate खाई है? Yes. That big bar, huh? So, okay, how do you feel when you consume it? Do you feel like you're consuming a nice premium product? Right? It reflects that kind of emotion. Yeah, but the price that you pay for it, you don't feel here ज़्यादा rent हो गया pocket में अभी अगले महीने खर्चा कम करना पड़ेगा. It doesn't feel that way. You feel that you're getting good value for the price that you pay. So that's a mass premiumization approach. Then third, place or distribution, I would say. So we already talked about the importance of different channels of distribution, and it depends on the kind of product you're trying to sell. But when it comes to distribution, there are external forces also that come into play. So for instance, during COVID, Milk is essential service, but the product that I was trying to sell, the beverages, long life beverages, it was very, very difficult to approach consumers with this offering, with the long life beverages. It was mostly pouch milk, the fresh milk that was selling, because what daily people consume it in making tea or consuming it as pure milk or to feed their children at home. So, and since the supply chain was disrupted, we were not able to reach consumers initially. It was a bit of a break there. So what we did, quickly we turned around things. We approached our army of fresh range of distributors. Okay, we clubbed our long life beverages with fresh milk. And in the same vehicle, we ensured that we are distributing our long life beverages along with milk. Wherever milk was selling in every nook and corner of India, our long life beverages were also selling. And that is how we took the different approach in distribution and ensured that supply chain is not broken at any level. Okay, so such innovation also comes into play when it comes to distribution. And then obviously launching B2C, because that's the nature of the product that we created a website. Then finally promotion. So, we are going very, very heavy on social media. Not we as not Amul, but generally the sentiment is that social media is very important. Certainly it is important. But as marketers, we need to see that social media is one of the media vehicles. TV, press, radio, OH, they are all equally important depending on the type of product you're trying to sell, the kind of advertising purpose you have got, and obviously the budgets, right? But social media does help in testing effectiveness of a campaign in a very quick manner. So the feedback period is quite short. So brands get enough time to modify their filters so that whatever target they are trying to achieve, they do that in as less time as possible. That's the benefit of social media when it comes to promotion. But anything on digital should be aimed at generating conversations. That is most important, and rather than using any other marketing tool, our objective on digital should be to generate conversations. As I told you, for our protein beverages, it was conversations, sheer conversations, genuine and organic, that people became evangelists. They were talking about it. If there is any query on social media and I want to consume protein, what are the best sources? And then there are 5 people writing over there that you consume this lassi or this buttermilk from Amul. It's nice. I've purchased 32 packs of it. It's available on this website. It's priced at this thing. So they are talking about it, and we don't have to do much. People are selling it on their own. So that's the kind of conversation one should try to generate when it comes to social media. So these are the 4 things. And finally, I will leave you with one thing. Apple is the most valued brand in the world. Why is that so? They could get their marketing mix right, but they kept the consumer centricity at core. So as managers that you are going to be, you need to ensure that you take the innovative approach, you work, you go back to the scratch board and start from the scratch, work on the 4 Ps, ensure that it's done very, very well, but consumer or the stakeholders are at the core of it. That's very important.
Those are some very enriching points from our panelists. Now I think I'll ask our audience if you come across with any question and answers that you'd like to ask them, please. You can ask them whatever you want. Any questions from the audience?
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'll really mention one thing here. You don't start with the aim of selling it off to somebody, right? It's very core to you. It's like giving birth to a child. Would you really want to give birth to just give it away at some point in life? No, right? So I think the aim is not to sell it off or to get merged or acquire. Or it's not about selling off my IP or licensing technology. But the fact is, eventually when you grow your company, now there is a lot of competition. I will agree. In the battery space, there is competition. But if you narrow it down to organic batteries, to biodegradable batteries, to opportunities apart from EVs, then you have a wider scope. So you got to identify which is your target area, which typically is your zone that you want to operate in. Now, if it is batteries, batteries could be as small as toys, watches with those smaller coins of batteries, to as big as grid storage. I mean, you're looking at a genre which is huge. Itself, the market itself is about $150 billion globally. And there are so many stakeholders in that. It might not only be the EVs. EVs is something which is an upcoming space and you are trying to penetrate because it has spaces to enter or maybe even create your niche right now. But the fact is, if I want to enter into toys, I think that's a bigger space to be in. If you look at the AA, AAA batteries, the zinc carbon single-use batteries, that's another space to be in because at the end of the day, even they are polluting enough. So the fact is, you got to understand where you want to be. And trust me, there will never be a time in life where you want to do something and the market is so crowded that you can't enter. There is always a scope, you only got to recognize your right niche. And if I talk about scalable opportunities, if you're developing a technology, I'm sure you're developing a technology for a product. So at the end of the day, it is not a technology, it is typically a product. And the product only makes sense to be a product when it is selling. So your aim is to be able to innovate, make a product, and then sell it to the market, which then gives you a revenue or a profit returns, right? So when you start a company, you build a product. Whether it is a service, it's a hardcore physical product, but at the end of the day, it's something that it's called a product. So even if it is only technology that you're working on and actually not building that physical battery per se, it is still a product. And then you decide as to what typically works for you in the environment. I've seen a lot of health tech startups, precisely, who work on crazy technologies. We have people in Bhubaneswar working on cancer stem cells, so they are able to identify cancer way earlier than it can be detected by a medical device. Okay, so we have technologies like that here. But the point is, it is on you how you want to scale it up. Whether you want external investments to come in, set up your manufacturing plant, do the promotions, get the marketing mix right, and go huge. Or you want to silently keep working on the R&D, slowly get to the market, penetrate, try and do trials, the pilots basically, try and show people what the technology is, contact some big healthcare company, show them the product, and then simply sell it on to them and relax and maybe innovate on more products. So it is purely on an individual to individual basis as to what really helps you in the environment that you are in. Today in the battery space, you not only have lithium ion, you have NMC, LFP, lithium ion, sodium ion, you have carbon-based batteries, you have silicon-based batteries, sodium ion batteries like I mentioned. You also have paper-based batteries, you also have lithium metal solid-state battery. Now globally, everything is trying to create an impact, everybody is trying to work. The fact is that R&D keeps evolving, the product keeps evolving, and you will always find a space to enter into the market and create a niche. Whether it is a multi-crore company or it's a small company catering only in a regional space, you will find your niche. So it purely depends on how much you trust your product, how much are you confident about your team, about the impact they can create with the product and with the way you can enter the market. And your strategy purely depends on that as to how you look around yourself. So standing here, I might look at the space completely in a very different manner than what you would look at it. And your choices in terms of the product or how you want to make it will be very different to me. So it's not about, even if I tell you how you can do it or what you can do it, that won't really help because ultimately it is you who has to be convinced, who has to be ready to take it up. And that will only come with the kind of trust and confidence you have on your product, on your people and on your team. And that's how it works.
Akhil, and my question is for Shefali ma'am. So ma'am, in the beverage industry, most of the transport means the cost is for the transportation because it is a bulky item. So why brands are not shifting towards the ready mix form? Like it will be more having more shelf life and have less transportation cost and overall cost effectiveness.
Okay, so if you're on the go, and it's a very good question, but just say if you're on the go and you want to consume something instantly, are you going to take out a mix, add water to it, stir it, wait for it to dissolve and mix properly, then consume it? And then if you want to have it chilled, you will keep it in refrigerator, chill it for a while, take it out, and then consume it. Now you are on the road. It's partner degrees out there. Are you going to do this process? No. So beverage is an impulse product, right? There is a market for the mixed category also that you're talking about, the powdered form. I think that's what you're talking about. So there is a market for that. Then it's more for in-house consumption. But when it comes to the ready-to-drink beverages, people want to have them off the shelf when they're on the go and just consume it right away. Obviously, they consume it at home also, but consumption is very, very high in impulse form.
Thank you ma'am.
I'll just add on to her. आप लोग चाय पीते हो? वो बाहर जाके शाम को दुकान पे जाते हो ना? कभी वो पाउडर मिक्स वाला चाय पिए? And फिर वो बाहर दुकान पे जाके पी के देखना कभी. That is also one thing which creates an impact, and that is the reason why they mentioned that it's the impulse, it's the immediate want to consume it. आप वो पाउडर वाली पी के देखो, फिर बाहर उनकी वो उबाल के वो बनाता है ना पूरा दूध को उबाल के क्रीम बना के उसको पी के देखो. You will get your answer.
Thank you ma'am.
A very good afternoon. My question is to Sahiti ma'am. Ma'am, you talked about women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship and how women are empowered in our villages, already empowered. Ma'am, when we talk about women entrepreneurs, we usually talk about external factors and how can we support them. But there are a lot of internal factors that go into play and nobody talks about them. For example, women spend major parts of their day in caregiving activities. And then, and as we have seen in COVID, that domestic violence has also increased, especially in Tier 3 and in villages, cities. So what should be the innovative ways in which any organization which is working at the grassroots level, apart from whatever the government is doing, so what should be the innovative ways one can do in order to ensure that these internal factors are also taken care of for women entrepreneurs?
The first aspect is that everybody, whether it's a man or a woman, they do have the internal factors, like men are more responsible to bring money onto the table. That's what I've seen in the villages. And women are more responsible for 4 people being hungry in the house. But still, if the child wants to go out for a movie, they'll come ask the father, although they're spending 24 hours under the supervision of the mother. So there is a very detailed, like if you go spend time with them and try to understand the social structure and the fabric that you're talking about is equally imposed on men, right? So it is, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a gender. If you identify the problem and if you're serious about solving that problem, you will find a way out. You will figure a way out. You will talk to 100 people. You will know how to ask for it. So that is 90% of the solution to any creator. That is what separates a creator, leader from the rest of the crowd. That's what I say. Yes, women have issues. Yes, women have to face problems. Yes, women have to take care of the children. But it does not mean that in many places, men are equally participating. So it is about the communication, it is about self-awareness, and it is about having the clarity. And definitely, like there are some external factors that we can do, like there is digitization, like there is creating of awareness, there is providing microfinance to them, and measuring that microfinance well. So there are many external factors that could be looked under innovation, but when it comes to the internal factors, a creator and a leader will know how to face through it.
Yes. Anyone else, please?
Uh, just to add one point to what you've asked, there is a need of women coming together to one place. So when you say internal, there is something called awakening, right? So what, for example, we are doing at Mohanam is we are not giving grants to them or not just providing them livelihood training and saying that, okay, you take this money and take this back. But we are helping them in traveling together, celebrating together, coming out of their homes together, bringing their children to work. These are the kind of things which will bring an internal shift. So we need more spaces. Like that's the reason why, we choose to go to a co-working space, for example, because there are like-minded people going through the similar kind of struggles and challenges where you feel embraced, where you feel nurtured, and you feel more pumped up to take your idea forward, and you feel it's okay to have all these. There are another 10 people who are on the same boat, so we'll sail together. So creating common spaces, whether it is online or on site, will really help a lot. Just bringing people together will solve a lot of problems, for women entrepreneurs especially.
Good afternoon. My name is Satyajit Das, and my question is for Shefali ma'am. Ma'am, Amul is known for brands like Amul butter. It is popular among the dairy products, right? So the gym goers normally don't prefer such products. So how could you associate a protein shake as to a brand of like Amul? How could you communicate it to the consumers, and what were the strategies taken by you?
Satyajit, if I understand your question right, you're saying gym goers don't prefer butter.
No, ma'am, not exactly, but they don't prefer, like the kind of image they have is that Amul is mostly associated with brands, products like butter and dairy products which they normally avoid. I'm not particularly saying they avoid it completely, but they are supposed to avoid something. So how could you associate a protein shake to a brand like Amul, where the competition in protein shake market is very much, it's like very high?
Alright, so I'll address both the things, not the protein thing. Because the first part that you're saying that gym goers don't appreciate the line of range that Amul has got. Now, that's a myth. Okay? Any fitness enthusiast or a gym goer or a sports person needs to have all kinds of macronutrients in balance. So the three macronutrients being fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Okay? So anybody, any individual, I'm not saying somebody who is active physically, but anybody, even you all people, need to consume sufficient macros. There is a different proportion for each of these things. So let's say, for example, in case of protein, you need to have at least a kg, a gram per kg body weight. That's the minimum. So let's say since I am more active, I'll be consuming more than 2 grams per kg body weight. Okay, now it depends if it's a pregnant woman, if it's somebody active, if it's somebody who's doing an job. requirements differ. But every individual needs to consume all these things. Now, Amul being the dairy brand, we have the best quality fat, we have the best quality protein. And these two are most important. So even when it comes to diet planning, आप पहले protein डालते हैं diet में, fat डालते हैं diet में, and whatever calories are left over, let's say you're supposed to consume 2,000 calories, and assume 1,200 is coming from fats and proteins, the 800 will come from carbohydrates. Carbs is the task that we try to fill our diet. So we have the best quality fats and proteins, and anybody would need the good quality fats. So we have got ghee, we have got butter, and when it comes to protein, dairy is the best quality protein we get. Yeah. So when it comes to dairy-based protein, we have got milk. Yeah. We have got now these protein drinks, even our beverages. Everything has got protein in it. By the virtue of the fact that it is a dairy-based drink, and milk is rich in protein, and it has best quality protein. So the quality of protein also matters, and not just the quantity of protein. Right? So now addressing the second part, how will consumers accept the protein range from Amul? Since they don't mind the rest of the range of Amul, and they know that Amul has best quality source of fat and protein, they will appreciate protein from Amul even more. They will trust it even more. It's not the most of the supplements that are present in the market are either imported. Okay, there are a lot of products which are fake. That's also a problem in the industry, which I didn't touch upon. Amul products are trusted. People know its value for money. It's expensive. We are not including duty, import duty in our products, right? So it's in made in India. Very good source of milk, and something that has been consuming since generations. It's something Amul products our families have consumed since ages. So it's not a new thing, and you can trust it. It's perfectly priced. It's available. So there is no problem in people accepting the fats or proteins or anything that Amul is not.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My question is for Shefali ma'am. The beverage market in general in India is an underpenetrated market when we compare it to in percentage terms with US. So, what are the Indian companies doing in terms of penetrating this market more in the future, where the concerns for high sugar levels and veganism rising, as well as how big D2C is going to play a role in the beverage market in general?
Okay, so your first question is, it's not penetrated enough at what extent, and what we are doing to reach masses, is it? So you're talking about distribution expansion. That's a subject of supply chain and distribution, which is very complex, given the size of India, 1.3 billion that we are, and 70% being rural population. It's very difficult to cut across markets, but you'll be happy to know that directly we are reaching about 1 million outlets through our range of products, and we have about 1,000 SKUs. So distribution is a long-term game that every brand obviously tries to work on, and we are also trying, as I mentioned earlier, for beverages particularly, we have worked tremendously to improve distribution, and I can happy to share that it has almost doubled the number of outlets that we are reaching. And it's highly penetrated, or the highest penetrated beverage in India. Okay, and so we are trying to address the distribution gap. There are definitely gaps, and there's no brand that can say, okay, we are reaching all outlets. It's just not possible. Because last mile cost, last mile delivery, everything is very, very difficult. And you will understand this when you will work in a company in that system. You will realize that we do launch products, but then that idea that with a TAM की बात होती है, with an addressable market, it's never the all outlets of India or the 1.3 billion. No, definitely know, it's a very small size of population, a sizable number of outlets that we target. Because distribution is very difficult to implement, but we are doing really aggressive work. We are reaching even 10,000 population towns. So we are trying to go as deeper as we can. And second thing that helps doing this is launching that kind of products. So let's say the price point that matters when you go deeper in terms of distribution. So something at rupees 5, rupees 10, that really helps to penetrate the market. So we are working on that part also while we are expanding our distribution. Now distribution, one would be retail, second would be your e-com, MFS, or as you were saying, other platforms. But then all these things are very small. In India, GB is very big. And Amul was predominantly a GB brand. So we are expanding our general trade distribution in a big way, and there are consistent efforts going on in that direction. And when you are talking about D2C, so as I mentioned earlier, D2C is one of the channels. Now it depends how big it's going to be for a company on the fact that what is the product they are trying to sell, what is their TV they are trying to sell. So यदि आपको protein drinks launch करनी है, for instance, if Amul launched protein drinks, we took the D2C region and not the GD region. Because we know this kind of product will be purchased more on D2C and not on GD, not in GD outlets. So D2C will be very, very big for some companies which rely totally on it. जिनका पूरा product type ही ऐसा है जो उसी पे ही दिखेगा. Let's say Amul was a brand that had only protein beverages, then it would be just a D2C brand, 100% distribution on it's D2C platform. But if, let's say Amul is a brand which is reaching to every class, every age group, right? So everybody, if you're trying to reach, then you need to have a combination of distribution strategy and trying just one channel that you can stay dependent on. So D2C is going to be it's increasing, and every startup is now coming into D2C space only. But they need to embrace other channels also, depending on the product they are trying to sell. Because each has its own value. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Hello, good evening. My question is to Nishita ma'am. Nexus Power is bringing absolutely innovative technology to the table. I mean, all the technology that you talked about, that was something which was very alluring and simple. But what were the challenges that Nexus Power as a company faced in the initial phases when they were discovering the entire thing to be done?
Right. Thank you for that question. And typically, our first challenges were very much common with any other budding entrepreneur would have. But besides that, of course, we had very specific challenges also. So I first mentioned the specific challenges to you, maybe then tell you the general challenges that we come across. In terms of specific challenges for Nexus as a company and as a product, so when you go back to doing in R&D, you look at a lot of review of literature. You understand to see what all papers have been published, what research has been done in this space, and how much the world knows about what we're venturing into. And that was the first challenge for us, because when we went back to see the kind of research already done, there was not much done, to be honest. So there were very, very few papers that we got that we could browse through and try and understand how things could take shape or how it could move. So for us to even bring pieces together of the puzzle, it was a big task, and that was my first challenge. Because then our first way of starting on the research was to see protein-based batteries. That was my first key to research. That was the first point I Googled to see kind of papers in protein batteries. We failed because we didn't get many. We had to fall back to batteries, lithium-ion batteries, research in batteries, research in organic batteries, research in biodegradable batteries. Now that's a huge broader perspective. And then you read those papers and try and then narrow down to what actually suits you, what does not. So that, we initially thought it was slightly easier to do it because the reference that we got from where we actually began the entire journey into a biodegradable battery was a book which was called Principles of Biochemistry, which was dated back to 1956. That had mentioned about this kind of a biodegradable battery. So normally you assume, when you have a reference dating back to 1956, you normally assume that you will find a lot of details and research about this because it's dating back to something which is ages old. But then eventually you realize that it's not there. So you try and build those pieces together. Okay? That was first. Second, when you start the research, physically hands-on, a lot of chemicals, a lot of agents, a lot of raw material per se is required. And for every material, you first have to go and hunt the exact vendor who can supply that to you, and you set a supply chain there. So institutes, R&D institutes, even colleges, they have a chain where they would have a readily available supply chain that is more convenient than what a startup would have. So when you are starting off and the R&D labs that we were browsing with, the labs only had the machines for us, and that was the advantage. But operating those machines, the kind of reagents, the kind of chemicals you would need, the kind of columns that we call, which basically filters and extracts, was not something that they would give. We had to buy them ourselves. So some of them you would get in India, some of them you had to import. So we used to spend hours and hours together to only look at the right vendor, speak to him, gain that confidence, because when you're importing, there is a 70% chance that you might get stuck in customs, and then you're stuck forever. Okay, that happens. So you have to build the confidence, try and see the product that I want to import. By chance, if there is an Indian seller for the same, even if he is charging me 3 times than what I could buy it from the import, I would rather offer the Indian guy because he's already clearing it from the customs. So I don't have to get that off the guy. And then when you're procuring, so you place an order, and then each of those elements have their own sweet little time, which we call as a delivery time. Some come to us 2 months later, some come in 4 weeks, some come in 5 days. So when you're trying to research on one element, that one element might need 5 products, which will help in that research, and those 5 products, one is coming 5 days later, one is coming in 2 months, one is coming in 2 weeks later, so you're actually stuck until all of them come together to you, and then you start the research. So these are the smaller elements that in R&D specifically we face. Also, then there are times that when you are actually doing the R&D, you are doing a pure trial and error. There is no set norms, and there is nothing ready that you are all set to just build it together and put it out. You're actually trying every element yourself. Some work, some don't. There are times when you're stuck for months together on the same thing, and you're not able to actually understand as to why the ampere rating is not coming out to the way it was projected to be when you're trying to use the same elements. And there are also times when you say, okay, I have put 2 grams of this certain thing, and it is giving me a certain number of amperes. Probably if I increase the concentration, I might get a better ampere rating. And when you end up to trying that, sometimes you certainly get nothing because it goes denatured, because you've gone wrong somewhere. And now to find out where you've gone wrong, again you spend some months and months together. So these are very specific R&D challenges. And besides that, of course, I would, I'm not highlighting this, but I'll be very honest, it's sometimes easier to start out of Odisha in cities like Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore than Bhubaneswar, because very basic things like maybe even a pure commercial office space is something which is honestly missing here. Though you still have DLL, you have a couple of office buildings in Shahidnagar and around that area, but still, even then, the amount of spaces and the kind of option that you would have in Delhi or in Mumbai or in Bangalore, you won't get here. And at the same time, when I talk about investments and when we spoke to plethora of investors, we actually interacted with about 130, 140 investors before the funding happened for us. And the majority of those investors were skeptical about the place. They wanted us to switch base. They preferred Bangalore as a better option. Even Chennai as a better option, but not Bhubaneswar. So convincing them that we would like to be here and grow from here, because we started from here, and try and make things accessible for us here was also a challenge. Because every investor that you would interact with would want to look at a bigger perspective. And the bigger perspective definitely is a bigger city, which is Delhi, which is Mumbai, even Pune, but not Bhubaneswar. And so out of very personal experience, I tell you, our investors were here, they visited us in Bhubaneswar, they especially come down to Bhubaneswar to see how we are progressing and how things have been going. So they spent the entire day with us. They were very happy with the product, very happy with the team, very happy with how we are growing. But before they left, they gave us a small remark, which actually pinched me as a person, to be honest, because I am from Odisha myself, from Bhubaneswar. So before they headed out, one of the investors mentioned that Bhubaneswar is a very retirement city. People are very satisfied here, they're very comfortable, easygoing guys. But if you move slightly northwards or even Delhi or Mumbai, there's a very fast-paced environment there, which is not here. And because it pays to me, and it is something that I don't want Odisha or Bhubaneswar to be known as. And we are one of those very few companies in Odisha which are funded and officially growing as a funded company and a startup, and recognized on the eastern side. When we were listed on the Forbes under 30 Asia and India in 2021, we were one of the first from the eastern side. There wasn't any by then. And because we've been trying to do it as a company, on a personal level also, we've been trying to make these efforts that we at least change that mindset of people that Bhubaneswar is a very retirement city. We don't want to hear that again and again. Every time somebody comes here, like, bade easy going hai, sab satisfied, aram se chal raha hai. There is no hunger. And I don't think if you're a startup here and if you're trying to grow and create an impact, you would really want to hear that again and again. It certainly pinches you on the growth perspective also. And given that on the logistics side, people take more time to reach here than any other part, that sometimes really hits you. So that was one of the major reasons why we wanted to stick to Bhubaneswar and not move out from the investor's request to some other city. And that is why we interacted with 35 plus investors, because we wanted to have an investor who understands this aspect and who understands the fact that we would like to be here and grow from here. So these are typical challenges that we face. I'm sure there will be multiple more we face when we grow, and we are looking at a production scale. So even smaller issues like with the government officials, it's sometimes more difficult for a women entrepreneur. I wouldn't want to say it, but that's true. It's slightly more difficult when people don't take you seriously. And like I mentioned about the office space, if you talk to the space owners, the landlord who's supposed to give you the space, the first time when they see a startup, and the startup is about a year or 2 year old, it's just starting up and it's a woman. Most of them pull back because they are like, मेरा तो renting है हमें. That's the mindset, and that I think needs to change. And these are and this particular thing about an office space or even about government officials, I think it is gender neutral, slightly heavier on the women's side, but I believe it is still gender neutral. Because the moment you go and tell them that I am a startup and I am trying to build and it's only been 2 years for me since I have been working, the first thing they say is, we don't want to give our space to startup. We don't know your scalability, we don't know the probability of whether you succeed or not. I don't want to be stuck in a space where I am not getting my rent. And these changes have happened more after COVID. Before that, they were slightly more flexible. Now they are the mindset that if there's another pandemic and you're sitting at home, I think 5 months you won't even be able to pay them the rent. And this happens even after you mention to them that I am ready to give you 12 months of PTC with your rent. They will still be skeptical. And that's how it is.
Time for one last question.
Good evening, I'm Ankit Kumar Tripathi, and my question is for Nishita ma'am. It's very tough to start a company and to find right people. So what are the key traits you look for, qualities you look for in a team?
I think that's a very, very valuable question, to be honest. Hunting the right team is something everybody struggles with. Not only startups, I think even the bigger companies struggle with hiring the right guys. For us, when we began our journey of hiring our team, I think the very few things that we looked in that person was first, they connect with the vision. They understand what we want to do, they understand the fact that it is futuristic, and they would have to spend 4-5 years in building that product and not expect much revenues to flow in and not expect much pace in the organization. I mean, if you compare Nexus with any fast-growing consumer brand or a D2C brand, they would have revenues from day one. Their pace is very fast. trust. They're building a product that is selling, so your motivation comes there. But for a company like us, your motivation has to come from within, that I am putting in my hard work and I would expect returns in the next 3 to 4 years, but it cannot be fast paced right now. So the major thing that we looked at was the kind of connect that they had with the product, with the founders, whether they trust the founders or not, that they can sail you through in the boat that they are sitting in and not drowning, and typically we understand the vision and the concept. So those were the major points that we looked at. And another aspect that we definitely focused on was the attitude and the behavior of the person. So for me in the organization, it's very important that your attitude and the behavior you carry is very comfortable. We do not like toxic organizations at all. And we don't want to promote a culture where the environment in the office is toxic. So besides the fact that you connect with the founders, you connect with the vision that you look at, and you build that trust among yourself, it was very important for us to see that the person has a very positive attitude, an attitude which not only motivates himself, motivates the others in the team. At the same time, the behavior is not toxic. So you typically not somebody who is very short-tempered and simply loses cool at every small here and there discussion. Because there are challenges you would face where you are procuring a product which comes 2 months later, but then all of a sudden you realize that this is not what I wanted, I want something else. So in those situations, you would end up normally fighting amongst each other. So we really believe that we want somebody who can keep their cool, be patient enough, and try and make sure that the flow in the organization is as positive as possible. So we do not like a lot of negative impacts coming in. That really impacts your growth and impacts your R&D on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for so many interesting questions. Now, I'd like to thank all our panelists for giving us their time and also for giving us so many interesting experiences from life. They're learning from whatever they've done, for being as a young achievers at such a young age, pioneering so many things in life. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Now, I think I will ask you to please give us a copy.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to express my gratitude to all the three speakers for sharing their insights and answering all the questions. I'm sure all of us must have benefited from it. I would also like to thank Sumitra ma'am for moderating the event. I would take a moment to thank our sponsors, our special partners G Group and our refreshment partner Longines. And of course, I would like to share my gratitude to the audience for their enthusiastic participation and engagement. Now I would sincerely request all the esteemed speakers and moderator for the session to kindly accept the token of gratitude from our end. I would request the BES team to felicitate first of all Shefali ma'am. I would request Santhi ma'am to accept our token of gratitude. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request the team to kindly felicitate our moderator Sumitra ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. At the end, I would request all the speakers and moderator to accept the goodie hamper from our end. question, I would request the audience to please be seated as the speakers take our lead.